But then in round 3, I get matched with somebody, and immediately, the only message, no hi, no good luck, no nothing. The message is, wow, control in the 2-2 bracket, as if. So I already know that this one's going to be an absolute winner of a conversation. so I just say, yeah, hey, good luck and have fun. We match or whatever. And I basically hit him with the turn. He's on Celestia Angels. Or my opponent's on Celestia Angels. And they say, they basically flood the board, but I had the turn 3 Wrath, the Doomscar. And I just get messages. Like, messages are just coming at me while we're playing. Okay, so I'm in Arena. I only have one screen, so it's full screen. I have to Alt-Tab to get to Melee. But I just hear, like, ding, 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 like, messages flying at me. And when I go back and check, so we play the match, I end up winning Game 1 and Game 3 and winning the match. And I just look back and the messages are like, oh, sure. Like, as if. F you. Really? Question mark. Really? Question mark. F you. And then after the match, he says, seriously, man, F you. I hope you die in the next round.
What?
And I was just like, oh, all right. Well, thanks for the match, and good luck in future. Because once you're at 3 losses, you're out.
Yeah.
So instead of saying good luck in the rest of the event, I said good luck in any future events you might enter. And this is the best part. So the opponent then says, thanks, you too, unless you decide to play control again, in which case you can beep my beep with a semicolon P, so like a winky tongue out.
Weird.
Smiley face at the end. And I wasn't beeping it out. He didn't write anything there. Or they didn't write anything there. They
Gotcha.
just put
just like
blanks.
That's so weird. Well, first of all, that's so frustrating because, like,
Yeah.
you don't want to have to deal with that kind of stuff while you're in, like, tournament mode, but also, come on. Like...
But yeah, just don't be that guy. I encourage everyone to try Melee, play in some events. It's super fun. And this is by far, like, this has pretty much never happened to me.
Yeah, I've played a couple.
Especially not twice in one event.
They were all fine, so I don't...
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, just don't be that guy.
No,
if you lose,
don't.
Sometimes it's a really frustrating loss, but it's not your opponent's fault.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them a bad person.
No, it doesn't. Hello, and welcome to episode 28 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly Drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Yeah, basically we're just regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic, and specifically Magic the Gathering Arena, regularly.
Yeah. This week we are talking about Strixhaven Sealed because the Arena Open is coming up this weekend. So, keep listening to get all the good advice, I guess, to win $2,000.
To get all the advice.
Yeah. You get advice, whatever it does for
advice you didn't ask for.
Exactly. But first, each week we both bring a beer, we drink our own, then drink each other's, then rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what is on tap?
Right, today I've got a hibiscus pale ale. So here in Toronto we have this group organization called the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies. They throw events, back when that was a thing you were allowed to do, for women in beer. And they also make beers occasionally, and they always partner up with Henderson Brewing Company. So that's the actual brewing company, but it's, I guess, the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies that... I'm not sure if they designed the recipe or exactly how that partnership works, but, you always see... Every few months you see a new one from them, and they always sound great. Like, they're always the flavor profile or the type of thing I think is cool in a beer. So this is just a pale ale with some hibiscus added in, and it's 5.5%.
Nice. I actually didn't know that about the beer drinking ladies. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought it was a sweet beer you baked. Awesome. All right. I brought, this is Lee River Blackberry Vanilla Sour Beer. It is from Something in the Water Brewing Company. It is 4.9%, and there's a little fancy fish on the front, and that's the reason I picked it up, mainly, because of that. All right, so in Magic news, of course, the Arena Open is this weekend, so once again, $2,000 is on the table for basically everyone to try to get. So that's just going to be the talk of the town this weekend, so I'm excited for it to be back.
Yeah. And is anything else coming back, or is it just the Arena Open? Return?
We also have Historic Brawl is coming as well, which is my favorite way to play Brawl. I don't play very much Brawl, but Historic is the way I like it. And big news, there's Japanese alt art cards as the rewards. So I believe that it's like 2,500 gold to enter, but you get 5 different Japanese alt art cards, which is sick because those look amazing.
I knew something was up when I went to the store when Strixhaven dropped, and you could buy packs of Japanese alt arts, but you couldn't buy Brainstorm. You couldn't get Faithless Looting. There were a bunch of heavy hitters in the set that just weren't there. So I was like, they're planning something.
There's got to be something.
Some event you got to do to get these ones for sure.
So this is it. Both of those cards are ones that you can get from this event. So do that. Also on Twitch, there have been some guest lectures actually, which is pretty interesting. WotC is doing this thing where they're going hard in like the school idea of Strixhaven. And so they had a bunch of people who've been big names in Magic for a long time come and kind of speak on different topics. But namely, the one that I had seen and got to watch was the Frank Karsten one, who's the author of the article that Jeff was talking about last week about mana bases. And wow, was that enlightening. Really, really great. It was a legit class.
So I didn't really watch any of them. I heard about them. And I just think this is one of the cooler promotions that I think they've done.
It's really cool.
Really great idea. I did kind of pop in on one accidentally. I just saw Magic was streaming, and I was like, oh, let's see what they're streaming. From the very small portion that I saw, it seemed to be about cosplay. The speaker was doing their makeup and kind of showing how they do their makeup.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's really cool that they would do something like mana bases with Frank Carson and then cosplay with presumably somebody big in the cosplay community. Yeah. And so you just are hitting all these different Magic fans.
Exactly. Yeah, and the point was like Frank Karsten was kind of a Quandrix professor, and so that must have been a Prismari professor or something.
Yeah, you'd have to have him be the Quandrix.
Exactly.
Right?
But really cool, and I like some of the promotions they're doing with this. There are a couple that don't work out so well, I think.
Yes.
But we'll talk about the good ones, and this is definitely one of them. So if there are more lectures, if you're on Twitch and you see Magic is doing some sort of lecture, definitely pop in because it is worth it. However, Jeff, Twitter was tweeting this week about a certain member of the music community who plays Magic, apparently.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I saw the picture, and it's not. Post Malone is someone that I didn't know I would recognize by face, you know. But as soon as I saw the picture, I was just like, "Is that Post Malone?" I don't really know.
I think so. Yeah. So basically,
I'm pretty sure it is. I've seen a music video, and that looks like
him. So there had been some pictures previously that were him going to card shops or where he goes. The shop he goes to in his town, and then there's he went to buy a bunch of cards at some place, and people were talking about that. And then the Command Zone podcast had dropped a picture of him on their set, and that was a big buzz of he is going to be playing Commander with them, and that presumably that shop was where he bought all the cards for his deck.
Right.
So it's
that's the picture I saw.
Yeah, that's part of the big news. So that's quite exciting. Like it's not specifically Arena, of course, but having more big name people playing Arena who are Magic who are outside of the quote unquote Magic community is great for us because you get more people interested. Hey, maybe someone who likes Post Malone's like, oh, that thing is. Hey, maybe I will try this game that I always wanted to try, but I thought my friends would make fun of me. But now I can say Post Malone plays it, so you can't get mad at me. Post Malone plays it. That's cool. It's like Hunter Pence. Cool. Hunter Pence is putting on all those limited tournaments.
Right, the Sweatsuit Invitationals.
Yeah, which is huge. It's like, oh, sick. Baseball player is playing Magic. Pretty cool. Yeah, so we do have a top tier out of here just because I'm confused from this weekend. But wasn't Tainted Pact? That deck was just like nixed, right? Like that deck was... No one was playing that deck because the card didn't work very well in Arena. Am I wrong?
Yeah. I lost to that deck a couple of times in the... So in the satellite to qualify for the championship qualifier, feels weird to say qualify for the qualifier, but that's what you have to do. I went 4-2, and both losses were to Tainted Pact combo. So
Yeah. I just like, I knew that people were saying, oh, you don't have enough rope to play it. I even saw Arne Huschenbett, who was on Twitch playing it, and the whole time he was like, this deck is garbage. This is unplayable. This card's unplayable. You can't play this deck. It's terrible.
From what I understand, if you put Thassa's Oracle on the stack and respond to that trigger with Tainted Pack, then even if you run out of rope, it will just go through your whole library for you automatically, and then the Oracle trigger will
resolve. Because I know that had happened to a lot of people where they didn't have the Oracle on the stack, and so they're just doing Tainted Pack, and if you can't get through it fast enough, it will just exile your whole library, and then you just lose.
If there's like any lag at all, you're cooked.
So I thought that deck was just unplayable, but apparently it was all over the place. And
it did pretty well.
It did pretty well. That's why I'm like, what? Oh, okay. I thought that no one would bring this, but apparently people will. All right, there you go.
If this is the control deck of Historic, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the combo deck. I don't like combo decks in general, but if this is it, then I don't really mind it. It's kind of just a blue-black control deck with a combo kill that has to sacrifice a lot of consistency in the name of that, because it can only play one Brainstorm, it can only play one whatever.
Yeah, of all that kind of stuff. Let's just jump right into Sealed, I think. That feels pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. So, the Arena Open, it's back around. It is May 8th and 9th. It is 22,500 gold or 4,500 gems. As always, you can choose best of 1 or best of 3. However, this time, when you're getting your sleeves, best of 1, you get one sleeve, and best of 3, you get a different sleeve. They're Will and Rowan, respectively. And you basically get the other one if you qualify for day 2. That's fine. It is interesting because this is the first time they are incentivizing you to do both. If you're not actually going to qualify, they're like, hey, well, maybe just try best of 1, then maybe try best of 3. Just, get all the sleeves that you want. So interesting to see how the price slowly is going up, and then, slowly they're changing some things.
Yeah.
But in any case,
price. The price is the same as the Kaldheim Sealed one. Right?
Yeah. I just meant, I guess
it's more expensive than the constructed ones before it.
Yeah. But yeah, still you get to win real money, or you could. So that is awesome. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah. So, the last time they did this was Kaldheim Sealed. That was the most recent Arena Open, I think.
Yeah.
And it went over great. Everyone loved it. Everyone was posting deck lists on Twitter and stuff, and there's just a lot of buzz in the community about how smoothly this Arena Open went and how it was great to see competitive Limited. Like, people were asking for that for a long time. So if you love Limited and you want to just try something a little higher stakes, give this a try, because Arena Opens are a lot of fun.
Yeah, they really are. And being able to be part of it and even like post your, what do I do with this pool or whatever, or talk to your friends about it, it's just fun. I like it. Like it a lot. And Jeff, as always, do you want to say like one of our number one rule, the golden rule, the gambling rule for Arena Opens?
Yeah. So make sure that you decide beforehand how many times you're going to enter. So we say this every time, but in case you haven't played in one of these events before, you can enter on day 1 as often as you like. So if I go play best of 1, I pay my 22.5 gold, and I go 3. I guess you have to get 3 losses in best of 1. And I'm like, damn, that really wasn't satisfying. I'm just going to jump in again. I'm allowed to do that. It's just I have to pay the entry fee again. So it's really easy to kind of blow all your gold or blow all your gems playing this event if you kind of let it get out of hand. So we recommend every time to just say, you know what, I'm going to only enter this once or twice or 3 times, whatever you're comfortable with as your number going in. And once you hit that number, don't buy more gems and jump in again. It's the classic kind of gambling problem. So just make sure you're being smart about it. It's really easy to just jump back in.
It's super easy, especially when you've been drinking a few beers while you're doing it and you don't look at your credit card statement. You're just like, just click the button. You're like, it's fine.
I'm sure it'll be okay.
Yeah, don't do that. All right, so Sealed, as always, it's 6 packs, which normally equates to 6 rares or mythics. However, this time, because of the mystical archives, you can get more rares than that. Kind of the highest you could possibly go would be 12, because you could get, there's always one spot open for mystical archive. So if you happen to get 6 rare mystical archive cards with your other 6 rares, then you could get 12. Right. And I just showed Jeff the other day, I was in a draft and I opened a pack that had 3 rares in it. But that was mainly because there's a mythic, and then there's a rare lesson, and then there's a rare mystical archive. So I think the lesson also has a spot.
Couldn't you get 18 possibly?
So I guess you could get 18 if you had all the rare lessons. It would be crazy, and you wouldn't necessarily want that possibly, because then some other cards that you might want you wouldn't get, missing some lesson spots. But it is a lot, and which is really fun and really great about this sealed specifically, I think.
I find it's been really common to get 7 or 8 rares in my experience.
Absolutely. Like you're almost guaranteed more than 6, which is great.
Yeah, certainly 6 is the minimum, so the average is well above 6.
Above that. I will say that when it always flips and shows you your rares. Those aren't all the rares that you have. There's actually a little thing underneath that tells you how many.
Right, it'll only show you 6 rares.
Yes.
But
so you might be like, oh, what a jip. But actually, you have to go hunting. Make sure you look for the other ones, because there will be more. And there's a little line underneath that's in yellow or something that says, you opened 7 rares or whatever.
Right. Each mystical archive card that appears in your 6 rares, there's at least one rare that from that pack that's not showing up.
Exactly. So just, more important to look through all your cards than ever before.
Yeah. But also it kind of makes it, like in Sealed, you always want to play your bombs. And to me, this makes that even more the case here. Because when everyone else is opening, 8 rares, 7 or 8 rares on average, if you have a deck with no bombs in it, the likelihood that you run into a bomb in your opponent's deck is way higher, because there's so many more rares being dished out. So I think even more than usual, like we always advocate to look at your rares first before you do anything in Sealed. Just to get an idea of what like the most powerful thing you could possibly be doing looks like.
Exactly.
And I think it's even more important here because everyone's going to have rares, basically, and lots of them.
So what you can do is you can look at all your rares and then take a picture of them. Don't put any of them in your deck. And then send your opponent like a screenshot or something somehow.
Yeah.
Find them on Twitch and be like, hey, look at all the rares I didn't play. And then
check it.
You lose. Anyway, but...
but you could feel good about yourself building
exactly.
Common and uncommon Sealed.
It's very honorable, right?
Yeah.
That's how you honorably play Sealed, is with no rares or bombs. Yeah, okay, so this deck building situation is a bit different because we do have learn and lesson cards. And there are some specific lessons that are pretty important or like you're really looking for.
Yeah, exactly. I think lessons are, after your rares, the second thing you should look at. Just look at all your lessons and find out which one. Almost treat them as rares, because the good lessons are just so key to have access to.
Exactly. And having a wide variety of them. I mean, obviously in Sealed you don't get to choose this, but in Draft it's good to have a bunch of different ones. Because the idea is that you want to, when you learn, you want to have as many options as possible. So make sure you look at all of them, even ones that you initially thought, nah, maybe I won't play that or whatever. Just keep it in mind whenever you're playing all the different lessons that you could possibly go get in your pool.
And if you have a few good lessons, pretty much any card that says learn on it is playable.
Yeah.
Like even the ones that look really bad, they're actually not that bad.
Exactly. They are like there's the blue one that gives -4, -0. That one's definitely playable. Cram Session, which I initially thought was not great.
Yeah, Cram Session's my go-to example. Like people are always playing Cram Session. Like you don't necessarily hope that that's your learn card that's going to get your good lesson. You hope to have some better ones, but hey, I mean, if you have some really good lesson options, just slap Cram Session in your deck. It's fine.
I really think that any learn card, besides, I think the one I like the least is First Day of Class. All the other ones I really like. First Day of Class is the only one that I'm like iffy about. However, if you want to put a +1/+1 counter on like a, I don't know, if you're going to go get like one of the token creators, then it's good. But besides that, Yeah, learn lessons.
Could
Really
give
great.
haste to a giant fractal.
Exactly. So that can be awesome. However, there is one in particular that we think is probably the most important and the one that you're going to be looking for.
Oh, for sure.
You're
yeah.
hoping that you get at least one. Which one is that, Jeff?
Environmental sciences. So if you don't know, this is the one that goes and gets a basic land out of your library and you gain 2 life for 2 mana, colorless.
Exactly.
Basically, this is the card you want in your pool. This is the best common for sealed, no question, because it lets you splash so easily. Like you could basically imagine you have 6 or 7, well, maybe even that's a lot, but let's say you have 4 cards with learn on them. If you have 1 environmental sciences in your sideboard, you can almost count that as 4 sources for your splash. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Your splash just becomes so strong,
Exactly.
and then it lets you play all of your good cards, basically.
So, like we said before, try to play as many rares as you can. So that means like you're probably going to be splashing some stuff because obviously they're not going to be in all the same colors. However, this set is awesome for splashing. It's got really great fixing all over the place. Like you have environmental sciences, which is fantastic. You have all of the campuses, which are great. There's a gold land that works as well.
Right.
You have like letter of acceptance, which is the artifact that does that. There's just like plus all the normal stuff. There's cultivate, and like don't forget cultivate is in the set.
Right? Yeah. If you're lucky enough to open a cultivate.
Yeah. Which isn't even that hard that you accidentally just get one. Like they're everywhere. So the only one that is like kind of tricks you into thinking that it's fixing, but it's not, is Field Trip.
But if you have environmental sciences,
There you
it
go.
could still go get you that.
Exactly. So
But Field Trip gets you a forest.
It gets you
so
a
it's-
forest.
It looks like fixing at first glance, but then
yeah,
you realize
I've
it's
definitely
not.
put it in my deck thinking it'll get me my splash color, and then realizing, oh shit, it won't. Okay, good.
Right.
That's some good.
Still a
mental
good
note.
card, though.
It's still a really good card. It's good ramp. There's great ramp in this set. There's treasures all over the place. If you're playing Prismari, you can just make treasures and splash things.
Yeah. I was watching something by Max Mick, who recently won like a huge MTGO Sealed event. And he was just talking about the format a little bit. And he was explaining that if you have an environmental sciences, then you can splash cards that are completely off college. Like you can splash a red-white card in your Witherbloom deck if you have environmental sciences. Because basically you should think about it as the environmental sciences secures you one of them, and then the other one's just a splash.
That
So
makes
it's
sense.
like, it's not that different to splash a Lorehold card in Witherbloom with environmental sciences as it is to splash a white card in Witherbloom with no environmental sciences. So
Okay.
if you would be comfortable splashing 1 pip in your deck and you have the sciences in your board, you should feel comfortable splashing 2 pips.
That makes sense. Because also you're probably going to have a bunch of cards that go get you environmental sciences when you need it.
Right, and you would put 2 planes or whatever in your deck to splash the white card, just put 1 mountain and 1 planes.
Yeah.
And now,
And now,
it's taking up the same number of lands. Your
absolutely.
likelihood of having your splash colors is pretty much the same.
Yeah. And not even just that, like even if you have like an off-color campus that is just like one of your colors,
Oh yeah,
you're like, oh sweet, well, this just replaces, let's say it's like the Lorehold one again, you're playing Prismari. You're like, well, this replaces a mountain, but just because I get to scry, it's going to be so much better and so much more helpful.
true. Yeah, and then you should feel good splashing white cards too because you have the free source. quote
Exactly.
unquote.
So that's another thing that's really important to look at is all your like mana fixing. If you're, obviously going down what colors you're going to play.
Yeah, I see some lists that are almost like 4 or 5 colors, just playing all of their good stuff.
Yeah, and you can. It has a similar feel. Like Call Time was similar to this as well because the common the land cycle, similar thing here. I would say.
Right.
Those help like a lot. I do want to note that like just because a card is rare doesn't mean it's a bomb, and you should make sure to read them and decide which ones are actually really great playing and really great playing around. And which ones are like, oh, this looks super cool, but actually it's gonna make things really complicated and not really work with some other stuff. And maybe I don't have all the pieces I need to make it actually work the way I want it to. And it's okay to just leave those be, even if that is one of the dragons. Maybe it's just not
Like you were saying, you were unimpressed with the Witherbloom Dragon because it dies to so much common removal, and it costs 7.
Yeah, it's like a 4 toughness thing that dies to Heated Debate, which you can't counter or anything, can be a little rough. Not saying that you shouldn't play it. I still think it's correct to like.
I think in
play that
Sealed
card.
for sure would play it if I'm in those colors, you know.
Just
because if it doesn't die, it just takes over the game.
Absolutely.
It's 2 sap or 2 pests per turn.
Exactly.
Cycle.
So I will say just not just with the dragons. I mean, I've mainly done it with the dragons where I had one and didn't play it. But just there are some cards that are just like, you know what, I'm not going to play this, or don't try to jam it, especially if it's a mastery. If it's one of the non-black masteries, just you can leave it be. Yeah.
You don't have to slap Brainstorm in your deck. It's not that good in limited.
Exactly. Same with
it might be a rare, but it's not that good.
Same with even like Dark Ritual or some of these really impressive Mystical Archive cards.
Oh, I wouldn't play Dark Ritual in limited.
Exactly. Like, don't play that card. It seems really exciting, but it's not going to be that awesome. However, I do like if you have Channel and you have that Bookworm, the big 7/7, that just looks like
oh yeah,
yummy.
All about that.
I like
that turn
that.
3 or turn 2. Well, Bookworm, is it double green?
It's double green, so we turn 3.
You need to have 4 green sources to pull this off on turn 4.
But
that is not that good.
Seems great. You lose that life, you gain it right back. Not all of it, but I don't know.
Now, if you open Channel and Emrakul, now we're talking.
Or even just Channel and any of the X spells that are
yeah, what's that rare that's the Fireball one? It does like
Crackle
Crackle
of
X
power.
Times,
Yeah, the triple X. It's the Vin Diesel card. Yeah.
Right.
Which there's a side tangent on that card. Actually, I saw on Twitter some people were talking about how they thought it was really poorly crafted, and a lot of people are like, well, why? It's not really that it's kind of confusing at first, but it's not really that complicated. And they're like, well, there's 3 X's in the cost, and there's only 2 X's in the box. So where's the third X go? It's like, well,
what?
The X's are always the same.
There's one X. It's referenced 3 times in the cost and twice in the text box.
And you pay X. X is only one value. You can't. It's not different.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly. It's not like X, Y, Z. Right?
Yeah, that would be really confusing.
This deals X damage
to Y targets.
Y different targets Z times. All right, what's the best collection of numbers to pay for this with my mana?
That would be really confusing. So no, that's and these people on Twitter are trying to explain. No. This is not just magic. It's just math. This is just how stuff works. It's not complicated. And they're like, whatever, bro, you don't understand. Like, you shouldn't need a video to explain how this card works. It's like, you just had to go to school. I don't know.
I agree completely. We shouldn't.
What has failed you? I don't know.
They should have like a 3x that just goes in one thing. That would make it way less confusing.
Yeah, but we never use like any sort of multiplication in our
How much do I pay
mana values? Anyway, I just thought that was hilarious because, it is. Anyway.
Yeah. I did want to say that sometimes the rares go the other way. Like some rares are bombs, but may not look it. Like, I don't think I've ever lost a game where I cast Poet's Quill. Yeah. I thought that was just, like, totally fine to add to my deck, and then I would just dominate everyone with it. It's so good.
I thought that card was hot garbage when I read it. I remember being like, what the fuck is this? Like, yeah. I don't want this at all. This is terrible. Then after playing with it, I'm like, oh, damn. Oh, man, This is really good.
I think I, won with it, and then immediately the next game lost to my opponent having it, and I remember sitting there like, there's no way for me to win.
This
I can't race this thing, and I can't win in combat against this thing.
You need to,
And they're up a card? What is this?
You're like, holy shit, I need, my disenchants. Like, oh, okay. Great. So those...
Basically... Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of the ones. There's like a green one that's a lesson, like being like, oh shit, maybe I should actually care about that card. And
oh yeah, that one's good.
Think about those things. I mean, that one's great because you can go need it. You go get it whenever you need it. So that's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't have to in best of one worry about main decking enchantment hate
when they probably won't have any.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, man, Poet's
Yeah, I
Quill.
was just gonna say, Poet's Quill is just pretty much Umezawa's GTA. You know, just the unbeatable artifact equipment.
Yeah, it's totally Omizawa's GTA.
Yeah, it puts you up cards. It gains you life.
It kills
helps you in
stuff.
combat.
Yeah,
it's the same. It's the same card.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. Yes. It is that card. Anyway, so I will say that as always, like, you know, when you're building your deck, you're trying to figure out what kind of archetype or style or, you know, deck that you're trying to build, right? And sealed usually doesn't lend itself very well to aggressive strategies, mainly because a lot of the cards that you need for those strategies are multiples of great commons and uncommons, and that's why it makes it really viable in draft. However, you don't get that in sealed. I would definitely say go check to make sure that, oh, oops, if I might have a great aggro pool right here and I'm just not thinking about it. So, you know, look for it, but don't really go in expecting to build that deck because it's...
I always check for the aggro. One thing that I was reading, you know, sometimes you can build the most controlling deck your pool is capable of, and then build the most aggressive deck your pool is capable of. You'll probably not end up playing either of these builds, but you just get an idea of what the limits, what are the boundaries on your pool, which is something I'd never heard of, but I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think that's great, and that's a wonderful point, is to look at your pool and build multiple decks out of it.
Especially in this format, I think you should be building like almost 5 or 6 different decks, and in the Arena Open, there's no time limit on your build.
Yeah. So send it to your friend.
You know,
I mean, like, some people were saying that this is like, I don't know, cheating or whatever. If you post it on Twitter and be like, hey, and you tag LSV and you're like, hey, tell me what I should do with, what do you think about this deck and blah, blah, blah. I have these cards. Should I take them out? Whatever. You can do that. I think it's like fine. It's kind of fun talking to a pro, I guess, if they actually talk to you. But I think it's more fun to talk to my friends. Like,
sure.
That's one of the...
I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think part of the fun, like at a pre-release or something, or, you know, these sealed things, is talking to your, you know, testing team, essentially.
Definitely.
Making your own is kind of fun.
The only people who should be complaining about it are, you know, LSV and Ben Stark, because they're going to have so many tweets coming in.
They just like screenshot like how many new tweets they get, and they're just like, guys, I can't. It's too much. It's too much.
I would love to analyze every sealed pool and respond with what I'd do, but... You know, I got my own here.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give you the, you know, I'm going to go through a whole thing, tweet it to you, and then you're going to be like, oh, I already went 0-3.
Like, yeah. Didn't take advice.
Okay, you didn't wait? I don't know what to tell you. So,
but yeah, take your time. Build 3-4 different decks at least, I would say. Because this format, the deck building portion is really complicated.
It's super complicated.
Trying to maximize your lessons and learns. And we've also talked about splashing. Like, you should try your... you know, straight Witherbloom deck, but then maybe it's okay to splash white, so then try Witherbloom splash white, and what cards does that make you bring in, and does that look better?
And then maybe that makes it,
splash.
You start to play, maybe I'm playing Silverclaw splash green instead of Witherbloom splash white.
Right.
And you're like,
exactly,
okay, and then you're trying to find that balance. So I definitely say take a lot of time building your deck. It's definitely the number one thing I breeze through constantly. And when I say building your deck, that also means take the time to pick the basic lands you're going to use. You know, take the time to find the card back you want to use, naming it, all those things helps you slow down a little bit. I've found myself. If I spend time looking at my deck trying to figure out what to name it, sometimes I find cards that I need to switch. You know,
like, wait a minute, this card is terrible.
Oh, I should take this out just because I took a breather. It's like, you know what, I should do that. I can take my
Why am I playing 7 strategic plannings? That's like, not a good idea.
I don't need to play that many at all. I've seen a lot of my draft decks have been like 5 heated debates. I'm like, wait, maybe I need to do something else besides just this.
No, that sounds great.
It hasn't been great. It's been pretty bad, actually.
I'm not going to win the game, but neither are you.
Until they have, like, you know, 2 4/4s.
A pest token.
Yeah, or something. You're like,
unwilling to use it on.
I can't do this. I'm going to die to the, pest.
Yeah.
So, because I want you to spend so much time building your draft deck, I think that we should take a break to get another beer because my beer is empty.
So I'm on the same page, but I do want to end with just one note.
All right,
on what
I'll
we were
let
just
you
talking about.
Yeah, do that.
So this was a tweet that I saw recently from Andrew Ellenbogen. I think it was around the last time of the Kaldheim Sealed Arena Open.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know, Andrew Ellenbogen was a Pro Tour champion. He won, I think, I can't remember exactly which Pro Tour, but either Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, around that time. Maybe Ravnica Allegiance. But he was just saying that basically is explaining that too many people people will spend 20 minutes on what their 22nd or 23rd card should be in their build, but they spent 4 minutes deciding what color pair they were going to be. And he was saying, like, the 22nd, 23rd card is really unlikely to matter or make much of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But playing the wrong color pair for your pool is really, really bad.
Yeah.
So you should be spending more time actually deciding what archetype your deck is going to be, and less time worrying about whether that 23rd card should be divination or, ops or something.
Mm-hmm.
Probably divination is just better, but you know what I mean? Like, don't worry about which marginal card is going to make the final slot as much as worrying about, am I even in the right colors?
Yeah.
Was it correct to go blue-green?
That's great. Yeah, I think that's perfect, because I definitely have spent a ton of time trying to figure out what my 24th card's going to be in my 41 card deck.
Also, don't play 41 cards. Anyways, let's go to a beer break.
Yeah, I think it's time for a beer break. All right. Hibiscus Pale Ale, let's go.
Oh, wow, this looks really different than
Really?
what it looks like on Zoom.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say this beer looks almost exactly like the other beer I just had.
Yeah.
They look very similar to each other, which is funny because they're both seem so different. Anyway,
It's
cheers.
rosé night.
It's a rosé. Yeah, the beers look like they're a rosé, is what they are. Okay. Strixhaven Sealed. Let's go. One thing I did want to mention before we move on into archetypes is that you can play off-color things. Like, you don't have to play the colleges. Like, we were talking about splashing when you take a college and splash a color. But, maybe you have really great red and black cards. Maybe you should just play Rakdos.
Play Rakdos, yeah. Like, if you have, several rares, they happen to be red, split across red and black, and then good lessons in those colors too. Build a red-black deck, see how it looks.
Yeah. Don't just, say, oh, well, that's not the colors you're supposed to play. There's only, 5 color pairs, so let's just do those. Now, that being said, it does mean that you won't really get to play any of the gold cards, unfortunately. However, don't forget that the hybrid cards, there's a bunch of them, and they are both colors. There's the whole Pledge Mage cycle for different things. Like, if you're playing Lorehold Pledge Mage, that's a white card or a red card. It doesn't have to be in a Lorehold deck. Put it in your Prismatic.
Right, I've played the Pledge Mage in Silver Quill, the Lorehold Pledge Mage in my Silver Quill deck with no red sources.
Exactly. It's actually a really great Silver Quill card because it has first strike and it's a great attacker.
It can attack.
It's super hard to block. So that's actually one of the cards I really want in my Silver Quill deck, funnily enough. More than the Silver Quill Pledge Mage, which I don't like as much.
Yeah, and playing off college, I guess that's what we can call it.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to happen more. It's going to be correct more often in Sealed than you're used to if you're used to playing Draft. Because in Draft, you're curating your deck as you go. You find the open college and whatever. But in Sealed, it's just like, here are your cards. A lot of the good cards are in red and black. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So if that happens, just play red and black. You can even be, red, black, splash some of your blue Prismari gold cards.
Yeah. You're like, oh,
that's fine too.
You're like, I don't like any of these other ones, or maybe my black removal is really great, and I'm going to use this red removal and stuff, but the blue cards are terrible, except for maybe some of the high end ones. Boom, there you go. Just do it that way.
It's actually something I've found in this. Yes, this is a faction format. We have the colleges, but I find it way less of a faction format than the ones I've played in the past.
100%.
So you'll see people calling this a guild set. That's referring to Ravnica sets where this kind of originated. And Ravnica sets are really hard on the factions. Like, it's very difficult to play off faction in one of those sets.
Yeah. And I think that's mainly because a lot of the, like, usually in those sets, they make a different keyword for each faction.
Exactly.
So each guild has their own ability, and all the cards care about that ability. So you could play the hybrid card in your, your Dimir hybrid card in your Rakdos deck. However, that card is probably not very good in it because it really only cares about, Dimir stuff, which is usually like graveyard spell things. So,
Right. Although they did do in those sets, there was like the Dimir, the Dimir keyword synergized with the is it keyword.
Right.
Like whenever there was a overlap of colors. So what I found is you were very often 3 colors in those sets because the fixing was okay and the 2 would synergize together.
Yeah. So most recently, you're talking about Surveil into Jumpstart. So having,
for example,
having a spell in your graveyard was good for is it, and Dimir is a great way to dump cards into your bin. So,
right.
And
Which
that
isn't really something that's going on here, actually. The distinct plans of the different colleges don't really overlap at all.
Because like a lot of the time, I think it's really cool what they're doing with the set. And I think we might talk about this in more length in another time. But I love that you can play off college or, some of these pledge mages fit better in other decks than
right. Like the Lorehold Pledge Mage is legitimately better in Silver Quill.
It really just feels like it. It just feels like a great attacker. And the Silver Quill Pledge Mage is good, but most of the time it will die a lot of the time. And I just like that, attacking First Striker, that there are so many combat tricks in the set. There are so many. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And
you would love that.
Yeah, and having a First Striker that bumps its power when you play a combat trick, plus the bump that you give, for having that.
Yeah.
I like that card quite a bit. If you haven't noticed, I think it's good. I think it's so much. I pick it much higher than I should. So Sealed is going to be great where I can't do that.
Yeah, you just either have it or you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. So honestly, this Sealed format has felt less like a faction format and more just like typical Sealed, where my deck is usually not super synergistic. It's usually just quality removal spells, quality learn lesson cards, and bombs, and just, good curve of creatures and all that. And so, yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with playing a pair that is, let's say, non-traditional. It still should happen less, then you should be in a college more often than not because, like you were saying, there are a lot of gold cards. So it's kind of like just a regular set with a bunch of gold cards.
Yeah,
way more than usual. And so the gold cards tend to be the most powerful cards in your pool, so you want to play them. So usually you will be in a college. But hey, if you get 3 red rares, 2 green rares, and a bunch of good lessons, then play Gruul.
Yeah, just go for it. Some of those deans, you only want to play one side anyway, so don't feel bad if you have like, this card is white and black, so I should make sure I can play the white side. Like, no, just play the black version. Like, you could have like the corner case, you have one white land if you actually want to play that. But a lot of times, some of those cards, you're like, I really want to play it for this one side, and I'm just gonna focus on that, and that's it.
Exactly.
Which I think is perfectly fine.
And just to your point about the hybrid cards, this was pointed out to me in an article by Ryan Sachs on Star City Games. But basically, he pointed out that so some of the most important lessons are the ones that make creature tokens. And those are all hybrid. So what happens is, if you are in a college, you get 3 out of those 5 that you can play. Because there's the one that is your college, and then the one that each of your colors overlaps with. So the Prismari one can play either the Lorehold one or the Quandrix one, red and blue, and then its own. But if you're an off color, like let's say Gruul, there's only one college that shares no color with you. So you actually get access to 4. So you actually get more. Yeah, you get access to more of the hybrid cards by playing off college.
Interesting. That I didn't really think about that because those are pretty great.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those times these learn cards, and we were talking about how great the learn lesson thing is before, but a lot of the time it's just like, hey, draw a creature card is what you're doing. Also important to note when you're building your deck. I saw this a lot when the set first released, and I was really confused why everyone having such a big problem with this. And everyone all over Twitter, I don't know why this is happening, but people were saying, "Oh, I don't have enough creatures for my deck. Like, what's wrong with the set? I know it's a spell-based set, but I don't have any creatures." I was like, "Yeah, but most of your spells make creature tokens. There's a ton of them. Like all those cards that the 6-mana green spell that makes a fractal equal to your lands. Like that's a creature. You know."
Yep.
All those cards, just don't forget, when you're counting how many creatures you have, it won't say it in Arena. When you click on the thing, it says, oh, you have, 5 creatures, but whatever spells. Just, you have to manually...
Five is low.
It's
even
really,
if you have a bunch of
but you know what I mean. Like,
token spells,
you should go in and count all your token-making spells, because obviously those make... I mean, it seems it's obviously there, and it makes sense when you talk about it. But for whatever reason, when you're building your deck, you will probably have a brain fart and forget for a moment. So it's worth pointing out, hey, just count them as creatures, because they are creatures for what you're doing.
And you should be doing this anyways. Like when I was playing Kaldheim, I would have my dwarven reinforcements as a creature. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was laying out my curve of where spells and
Exactly.
Just count that as a creature.
Yeah,
for sure.
a big thing that people are talking about is that symbology teacher or symbology professor. What is
Professor
it?
Symbology.
Professor of symbology. That's the card. So it's 1 and a white for a 2/1 that when it enters the battlefield it learns. There's also a sorcery that's black. It's 1 and a black. Is 10 to the pest or something? No, that's not that
10
one.
10 to the pest.
It's not that one.
10 to the pest is black green.
It's black green.
Sacks, yeah.
This is a different one, but it's 1 and a black for a sorcery that makes a pest.
I've played this card in standard.
Yeah, so it makes a pest, just a 1/1, and then you learn. So it's essentially it's very very similar to symbology professor or professor of symbology. However, it just has like 1 less power, but it also gains you a life when it dies. So a lot of people have been thinking that Professor of Symbology is just really great, much better, awesome. You get to learn on turn 2. That's amazing because it's great. But also this other one is really good too. It's just people aren't counting it as a creature in their mind. Just like that weird thing where they're like...
They're thinking of it as though it learns and then it has this weird other side of making like a pest.
A pest or whatever. You're like, no, but you're playing a creature on turn 2. That's great.
It's very similar to, those one like Lenore, Elvish Visionary.
Yeah.
It's very similar, right? It's a 1/1 that draws a card when it enters the battlefield.
Yeah. So it's like, I know it sounds stupid, but it's important to go through and count all your cards like that.
Yeah. And just before I forget, I actually think Duress is okay to play because of this, because people are going to have 8 creatures in their deck. So there's two reasons I think Duress is actually good, which it's almost never good in Limited. You should never play Duress in almost any format, but in this one, people are going to be registering decks with 8 creatures because they get their other 7 creatures from spells, but those are now Duressable creatures. And also, when your opponent goes to get a specific lesson, you're going to hit. Mm-hmm. Right? Your opponent goes to grab a lesson, and you just hold your duress, wait until they learn. And then once they learn, snag that lesson from them.
Yeah. And then realize they have something better. This is another reason why I think that playing Divine Gambit is definitely worth it, and I don't think enough people are playing it. Just because, obviously it's a gamble. Divine Gambit is always a gamble because it's a gambit, right? But the amount of times where it's this Prismari deck that's just waiting to play their giant
definitely
Magma Opus or anything, like all these they're going to create all these creature tokens, but if you just get to snipe whatever big fractal or their huge creature or exile it and they can't do anything, they just kind of their clock ticks or the rope goes and they just pass, pick a card. They can't. It's just great. It's just a wonderful feeling.
For sure.
So, just think about these things. think about the things. Oh my God! You can tell that I'm only on my second beer, but you can already tell it. It's happening. It's going.
That's why I needed to mention the duress thing while I thought about it, even if it wasn't the most logical time to bring it up.
Because you're just gonna forget. Okay, so let's go into Mystical Archives because you were mentioning duress and I said Divine Gambit. So it does seem like, oh, okay, well, Mystical Archives is an extra thing. We play it in Historic, all this stuff. However, in this limited format, they are very relevant and they are cards you should definitely know. Like if your opponent seems to be holding up their one red, you're like, oh, what one red spell could they play? It's like, well, they have Shock or Lightning Bolt. Those are both cards in the set.
Could be Infuriate too.
That's true. And Infuriate. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. Just it feels weird to like have to memorize this separate set of cards. But if you're gonna play your bomb, just think for an extra second. If you
just treat them as cards in the set,
Yeah, because they are. And they show up quite
remember
often.
that Mana Tithe is a thing that can happen.
Don't play your huge bomb without one open when they have white, just because.
It's still a rare, so it's like.
But it happens. I've played Mana Tithe many times.
I got Mana Tithed in my first event of this format.
Yeah, it's great. There are there's Day of Judgment is a board wipe. They have Crux of Fate is a board wipe. You're going to run...
Right, there's more board wipes than you think there are.
Yes.
Because a lot of them are in the Mystical Archives.
Mizzix's Mastery is going to kill you. Approach of the Second Sun is going to kill you.
That card's just a bomb.
Like, all those kinds of things, just, people are playing Time Warp. People are... teach by example their Time Warp, so they can get 2 turns.
Mizzix's Mastery with a Time Warp in the graveyard.
Exactly.
And overload it.
So just know that, don't forget about those. And there's not even that many of them, so you can just kind of look them up and just know what they are. There's more hand disruption than you think. You said duress, but there's also Inquisition of Kozilek, and there's what's the other one?
Agonizing Remorse.
There you go, Agonizing Remorse. I've seen that card so much more than I ever thought I was going to. I was like, holy shit, how many times do I have to discard cards to this card? I was like, oh, well, it's in the graveyard. No, it's exiled. I'm like, okay, well,
exiled.
Fuck this. What? Every time? Okay, whatever. And that's it's going to happen. So it's easiest just to look at all those cards and learn them just really well because you're going to see them all over the place.
Yeah. You don't want to learn your lessons the hard way.
Mm-hmm. You want the lessons that you learn to just be an extra card in your hand that helps you win the game.
Right.
Not something that you have to write down to be like, all right, so don't lose to memory lapse again. Because for whatever reason, my opponent always has memory lapse. That's the only card I think about. I put a spell on the stack.
Are you playing against me in Historic? Because that sounds fun.
Well, but even in Draft, it's like I put my bomb on the stack. It's either going to be... It's going to be memory lapse or it's going to be whirlwind denial. I'm like,
yeah. Oh, Lightning Helix is a good one to know about, too.
Lightning
Helix. That one can really change the math on a combat
really throw some things out of whack. So just, know about them, especially because people are going to have lots and lots of stuff going on. So just, I don't know, don't forget.
Yeah. Think about it and don't forget. Those are Zach's tips for the format.
Hey, think about things. Don't forget other things that you thought about. Boom. Things to live by. Lessons to learn. Life.
Well said.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
So I know we talked about, you don't always have to play off, or you don't always have to play on college.
Yeah.
But you normally will. Are there any colleges that you've found more success with than others? Is there like a ranking of colleges or something?
I think there is. I try really hard not to do that just because let me start over. It's not so much that I try really hard not to do that. It's more that I just don't do it. I don't think about it. But I have been having a lot of success with Silver Quill. Just because they have some good evasive creatures and they're fairly aggressive. And I always like aggressive strategies like that. They also have lifelink, so that really helps you just attack all the time. Like we were saying, Poet's Quill is, right?
Bomb.
Awesome. Just bomb. And then Quandrix as well has just like big dumb stuff. Quandrix feels like it just slides into Prismari so well. They both kind of, it seems like you're just playing a deck that's Teamer every time. Because they're like, ramp with this green stuff.
You have like treasure tokens in your Prismari decks.
Yeah, and too. All this stuff. So they're just playing huge stuff. I have been kind of sad with Lorehold. Has just been not really getting there for me. I've been having a struggle.
Yeah. I've had the exact same experience that I tend to do better with Silver Quill and Quandrix, and I'm always doing the worst with Lorehold. But I will say that I don't think it's that big of a delta, between Lorehold and Quandrix or Silver Quill. All the colleges are fine to play, and if you just get the good cards in that college, you should play that college, right?
I don't.
We're not saying avoid Lorehold; you'll never win.
None of that. I do think
if there's a tiebreaker, if you're either debating Quandrix and Lorehold and the decks look equally powered, maybe take the Quandrix deck.
One. I do think that it's Lorehold is so interesting and exciting because it's so offbeat. And I think that the way that the deck gets really good is kind of difficult to achieve. You're kind of going out of your comfort zone a little bit, doing some things that you normally wouldn't feel great about, as opposed to so the synergies is what I'm saying. So the synergies in Lorehold are kind of harder to achieve, as opposed to Witherbloom or something where there's a ton of life gain synergy stuff, but they're not really hard to get to, and it's already something you kind of want to do. You're sweet. I have my blood researcher on the battlefield, so there's a ton of random cards that just gain you life. You're like, oh, by the way, that fight spell gains you life or whatever. This you play your cram session actually to go get a spell. Oh, that gained me some life. That gets bigger. It just gets.
It's go to get environmental sciences, which gains
you life. Yeah, so it ends up being a lot easier to do some of the. Not only do you want to gain life because it saves you from dying to aggro, which is probably not going to be a huge problem in. Sealed, but it will come up in the sense that if I build a Silver Quill deck and I'm attacking for lethal every turn, but however they play a cram session 3 turns in a row, I'm not going to win that game because I'm like, oh great, well you're supposed to. I thought you were going to be dead, but you gained 12 life somehow. I don't. Right. Why do you have so many of those? How did that happen? It just seems like the Lorehold synergies specifically feel more difficult to achieve than some of the other ones.
And I think the other problem is also with Witherbloom a little bit is that they're mid-range decks. Mm-hmm. And this format is pretty slow. The range of stuff you could do is extremely powerful. And because of all this easy life gain you were talking about, and also because of the fact that there's card advantage built into so many cards with Lesson and Learn, and there just tend to be board stalls in this game. I play so many games that just end up with, well, we all have a bunch of 4/4s, so go. So it's actually quite a slow, powerful format. And what that tends to do is kind of nudge out mid-range because you want to be able to go over the top of your opponents or go way under the people that are getting greedy with how slow they're going. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true in this format for Sealed even more so. If you have the perfect Silver Quill aggro deck, build that because you're gonna run over the people with Magma Opus in their hand. But if you don't have that, which is going to be very rare, I would look first towards playing a slow, powerful deck before trying to. And maybe that's just not there. That's going to happen sometimes. So you have to try to be the deck that can beat the aggro deck because and can also beat the control deck by going under it.
It can beat the aggro deck because it has a 4 mana 1/5 with reach.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how you beat the aggro deck, and then.
Speaking of which, flying is great in this format too because of the ground stalling
absolutely.
out, like I mentioned earlier.
So flying is really awesome, and I
love Combat Professor.
Combat Professor is awesome, and also
it's so good,
so annoying, but it's so good. Those decks are great because it's really good, and I always lose to it.
That's got to be the best white common, I think.
Probably. That or Study Break. I think Study Break is really good.
Card I literally never would have picked for top white common during the set review.
Yeah, and it is most of the time I'm like, oh, I can get him later, but you can't. There's for drafts, mm-hmm. But the reason I had switched. So I had talked about it earlier, but when I did my first Sealed, I had some really powerful Prismari stuff, but I ended up playing a Silver Quill deck, and having 2 Study Breaks was a big reason. Because I was like, man, you get some, those board stalls where you're like, oh, well, they have 2 4/4s. Well, now they don't really have 2 4/4s, and I'm just still going to attack them. and then I get to
Or
draw.
often it's one big fractal that's stopping your attack.
And you're like, oh, well, never mind. You don't have that and your other whatever creature. Block with your like Zimone or something. Oh, I'm going to make you block with Zimone so you don't die, so you can't keep drawing cards. And then I'm going to go get a flyer. So
Yeah.
or
So I think if
Annihilation.
you know, if I'm jumping into, you know, the best of one queues for the Arena Open, I think my dream is just a raw Silver Quill aggro deck. I think that's what I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
But I think that's not going to happen very often.
No.
So you better be prepared to build this kind of teamer-based slow deck.
Exactly.
That's splashing and stuff.
Yeah.
And because you need to be able to overpower your opponents because the game's going to go long. So you might think you have too much card advantage, but you probably don't.
Yeah.
Because everyone has so much.
Another great thing to remember is the games can go pretty long. And if you happen to have a Blue Sun Zenith in your pool, you can make your opponent draw their whole deck. It's pretty great.
I saw somebody win like that with, I'll never remember the name of this card, but it copies your next instant or sorcery.
Teach by example is the...
Yeah, made them draw like... No, it was a creature that you return to your hand.
Rutha is the best. Rutha's so good.
So they Ruthed and then tapped out for Blue Sun Zenith, targeting their opponent, and drew them literally exactly the number of cards in their library. It was like 18 or something.
And that's 18. Making somebody draw 18 cards is nuts. That's crazy. Oh, that's so good. With that being said, you know, there's a rare, there's an uncommon legendary cycle, and Rutha is amazing. It's the Prismari one that copies your stuff. But it just turns all your removal spells into like double removal spells, like all your draw spells into a ton. Like you will draw your whole deck on accident. Like, so you aware of that. But anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox about Rutha because she's so good. And that's basically what we feel about Sealed. Like, besides that, you know, just have fun, man, and don't, you know, get bogged down about trying to win the money. That's an awesome prize, but like...
Yeah, you should be doing this to have fun, play some competitive limited again. Or if you've never played, you know, in a competitive event, this is a great way to kind of dip your toes into that scene where something's actually on the line. You know, some of the best players in the world, you know, don't even make day 2 or scrub out on day 2.
Yeah, or it takes them 5 tries. Just remember, like, last time Ben Stark and LSV, it took them like 4 or 5 tries each, so... and you know, you never know what deck's going to get you there because, you know, sometimes it's this boring looking thing that seems dumb, but it ends up going the distance. So,
I think last time I had to try 3 or 4 times. I don't quite remember, but I remember the deck that I got in with was by far the worst of the decks I built that day.
And that it ends up feeling that way a lot of time. But once again, just spend as much time as you can building your deck because if you're doing it just once, you know, that's the only time you get to do that. And this is, you know, fairly expensive for playing Sealed. You could play Sealed right now for 2,000 gems, but this is going to be more expensive, of course. And you're not really going to get anything back unless you get to day 2. So spend your time wisely. Just don't rush into anything. However, make sure you are drinking beer because it makes it more fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jeff, do you hear that?
What?
No, there's a bell. I'm pretty sure that's last call. They're calling last call right now.
Oh, that's what that is. You know. Yeah. I've learned to tune it out.
Oh, because we just don't care anymore, or because I just haven't been doing actual last call in over a year.
No, I just want to ignore last.
Oh yeah,
call.
that's a good plan.
Just order another.
All
drink.
right. Well, let's order our last drink. All right, here you go. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Hey.
We're aligned.
We are aligned. We picked the Hibiscus Pale Ale, the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies. I'm just going to say it. Sorry for what I brought. That was awful.
I did not love it.
I didn't like it really much at all. It was quite a
I
bummer.
was wondering because, you know, we tend to disagree on sours because we're looking for slightly different things. But I had the suspicion that even you wouldn't love that sour.
No. Let's just start with that one real quick. I would like to say that there is definitely something in the water, and the water is just the beer. There's nothing going on. It just tastes like water and a little bit of some sort of something. But wow, was it? There was nothing going on in that blackberry vanilla. There's none of those were there.
So you're saying there was nothing in the water?
There was nothing. No, the water was just the beer. There's something in the
Yeah.
water. It kind of tastes like beer, but it really is just water. Is
Yeah.
what it is. Wow. I'll drink it, but I don't. This feels silver, real bad.
Oof.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go light on it. I don't. It doesn't even really feel like a beer. It barely feels like anything.
Yeah, I didn't like it, but I think like part of that was it's not what I'm looking for in a sour to begin with. Like it's clear to me that the type of sour beer they were shooting for was kind of a juicy, like juice forward, not beer forward. Because I did get the sourness, I just didn't get the beer. You know, like it didn't taste like a beer to me.
So that's funny. So I got a little bit of the sour, and then I could taste a little bit of wheat at the end, like some beer notes, but literally nothing else. Like
I don't know if I could tell you that was supposed to be blackberry vanilla though.
I couldn't tell you that was.
No vanilla at all.
I don't think I could tell you that was really supposed to be a beer. You know,
Jeez.
if someone poured that and said, "Hey, this is rosé," I'd be like, "Okay." Like a sparkling rosé, I'd be like, "This is a weird sparkling rosé," but I wouldn't be like, "This is beer." Are you kidding me? This is beer. I really didn't like it. I don't.
That's clear.
Yeah, I don't think we've had one of those on the show. But when I took my first sip, I was like, "Wow, that's horribly disappointing," and I wish I did not bring this.
No holds barred here. Now you know we're giving our honest reviews.
I always give my honest review, and this is how I feel about this one. So now you know whenever we say something's really good, we actually mean it's really good because this.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, really not. I'm gonna say silver. That's the first silver I've given out, and it's
okay. I was gonna give it gold. So
okay. That's totally fine. I do think I'm a little harsher than you are sometimes. I'm a little mean, but I'm okay with that. I didn't like it. But this is hibiscus pale ale is actually it's nice, you know.
yeah.
I
Like I
don't.
was saying, with the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies beers, like they always do a bunch. I remember them doing a blood orange sizzle. Was the first time I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, that's literally something I've been talking about making. That sounds great to me. Let's get it." And then I think they did like an Earl Grey, something to do with an Earl Grey ale, or they did. And then they did another brown ale. So I always buy them because the types of beers that they're making really appeal to me and sound great. And hibiscus pale ale sounded like another knockout to me. But they always underwhelm me. I think it's maybe my sights are set too high. But I also wonder if like what's going on is that the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies has like just great ideas for a beer, but then the execution by the brewery they're working with is not necessarily the best.
Okay, I see that.
Because
I mean,
that's the part that always attracts me to it. Is
I
what style it is.
I like Henderson. I like their other stuff quite a bit. I like their things. Hibiscus
But
is
most
not,
of their other stuff is kind of generic, right? Like they have a solid ale and
they have a good like brown and some stuff. Yeah, it's hibiscus. I've had some different hibiscus things, and it's not always my favorite flavor. It always seems really exciting, but it tends to be every time I have some sort of hibiscus beer, it's it just doesn't hit the mark. And this one is similar, but I think I might just be playing it against this other one because I just felt like nothing was going on in the other beer. So maybe the things that are usually feel a little bit lighter about like this beer doesn't feel super big or it's not really voluptuous. There isn't a ton of flavors, but compared to the other one we had, it really feels like something's going on. I was like, wow, this has like a body, something's going, you know, I can taste things. I like it. But that being said, I think it's fine. I don't know if I'd ever really seek it out again, but it's fine.
So there's a like I think pretty much my favorite brewery is Judiciaire in Montreal, and they have it's a hibiscus rosé is what they call it.
Oh.
But it's basically a wheat beer that they flavor with hibiscus and I don't know if they actually use grapefruit, but you get like that kind of hints of grapefruit. And it's awesome. And it's one of the only wheat beers that I will order and can like drink more than one of. You know, usually wheat beers, by the end of the pint, I'm kind of forcing it down. I don't really want it anymore.
Yeah.
But this one just... So every time I see a hibiscus beer, I feel like I'm always just thinking of that. When I was surprised that this pink hibiscus beer was something I really liked. So I have kind of that background
High
with
expectations.
Hibiscus being added to beer.
That's interesting. I think my first hibiscus beer was a saison, and that was the first saison I'd ever had. And that was not my favorite. And it had kind of... at the time had been like, oh, maybe it's just the hibiscus and I like saisons. And since then I've been like, I am hit and miss with saisons sometimes. But so far, like, I would love to try that one because I just I've never really had a hibiscus that I was like, damn, this is great. But today, you know, I was feeling the beer drinking ladies and I like this one more than what I brought, unfortunately. Well, whatever.
Yeah, and this is still a totally fine beer, right? Like, it's a pale ale, and you get a bit of that pinkish color and a little bit of that aroma and flavor, too. I like that they didn't go overboard. Like, it's not bright pink and just punches you in the nose when you smell it with hibiscus.
Yeah.
It's clearly a pale ale. But I think maybe the base pale ale is just not my favorite pale ale.
I'll probably say gold.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. They were both gold, but one was at the low end of gold and one was, you know, gold 1 versus gold 4.
Yeah,
kind of
I felt similar except for, gold was just too high to give the other one.
You thought one was like, hasn't downloaded Arena yet.
Yeah, one was, they still think magic is magic tricks.
Yeah.
Anyway, last week we had great beer. But I feel like since we've been bringing beers from breweries, if you haven't listened to our last episode, go check it out. It's pretty sweet, and we have a great beer in that one. But some of these, you know, we need to bump it up a little bit. Either you need to make some more, or we gotta go.
I'm on it.
But with that, I think it is closing time.
Closing time.
Oh my gosh, every week. Okay, if you want to reach us and talk to us about which beers we should actually put on the show, because we might need a little bit of help, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, and also look for us on MTG Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast. I don't know if we'll be playing in the Arena Open on that account, but hey, if you see us, send us a thinking emoji. What are they called?
Emotes? Just one of the emotes.
Emotes, yes.
Yeah. If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zulberg, Zeulberg. But Jeff, where can they find you?
They can find me under Blues Brews MTG on Twitter.
Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Follow us on Spotify and, anywhere that you are listening to this right now. Leave us a comment on YouTube. We appreciate all of those things, all of the love, and, you can say horrible things to us on those if you want. If you want it to say, can suck my beeping whatever, go ahead. That'd be great. We'll say, I hope you have a good game.
I'm used to it, so.
Yeah. Please do that. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that getting lucky does not make your opponent a bad person.
Good night. All right, that's fine.